Hey everyone, I want to welcome everybody to another edition of Comics Cast Let It Out. And today we have another, I'm going to call it the dynamic duo. It's another artist-writer combo. And we have Nandor Fox Shaffer and Anthony Gonzales-Clark, right? You guys have such long superstar names that, it's like,
Get it right.
I just, I was joking around with you guys earlier, like when we were doing the banner. I was like, man, do you guys have a studio or do you have pen names? Because those are just really long names, but no one's going to forget those things. So I just want to welcome you both to the show. And just judging by our pre-show that we did yesterday, our audience is in for a treat because these guys are a spectacular team. Their Kickstarter, which is going on right now for Seasons Volume 2, it looks sick, absolutely sick. I mean, I got to hear a little bit about where they were going with it, how it came to fruition in terms of where the art is going, and it's going to be phenomenal. So we are going to be on a little bit of a tight schedule, just because Anthony is going to be have to jet because he's going to be doing a move. I think you said you're going to be moving from California to another state. Is that correct?
Well, today we're just saying we're doing like goodbyes and stuff. So we're just meeting up with some people. They have something set up for us. So we just got to be there a little sooner. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. We have a limited timeline, but I have Nandor. I knew I was going to screw that up. Nandor. Okay, I'm going to have him for a little bit longer. So when Anthony has to jet, I'm gonna be able to do a little bit of an extended talk with Nandor about stuff. But just so we got a little bit of those little things out of the way, I just want to welcome you both. Say hi, guys, to our Comics Cast audience.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hello.
I don't know, it sounded a little weird, awkward, but we're gonna go like this really quickly. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to hand the mic over to Nandor, and you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. Make it kind of like a little bit of an elevator speech, and then you can hand the mic over to Anthony. And while we're doing all of that, I'm going to, put up your social media handles here. So if you want to get in touch with Anthony or Nandor, these are their social media handles. And 2, I'm going to show some artwork that was shared from both Anthony and Nandor in terms of the Seasons project. So please, Nandor, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Nandor. I'm the creator and writer of Seasons. I've been writing comics for about 5 years now. I started Seasons is my first project. I started working on it when I was, I think, around 17, 18 years old. I'm 23 right now, and I just had gotten out of high school. I was really kind of questioning, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go with my life, and I went to college for a little bit, but I was working on Seasons while I was going to college, and I just really believed in the story, and I knew what I wanted to do, and so I went into comics, as hard as I could. I stopped going to college for a time, and I've been working on that, and then so we published the first book. Anthony and I got together, and we did that through Kickstarter, and then I published a second book called Lifeline after that one, and I worked with 7 different artists from all around the world on that project, and it funded on Kickstarter. And we've had a lot of success with Seasons, and I'm still growing as a writer, still growing as a creative, and right now we're really pushing Volume 2. A lot of people have been asking for it for a while. It's been a couple of years since the first volume came out, so it's been really exciting. This book's going to be, better than the first one, and we can't wait to get it out there. And I'll hand it up to Anthony now.
Okay. Hey, and we don't have to be left to right, so it's easy to make sure that we point right.
Yeah.
Because right or left is weird. But Anthony, I have some of your artwork here. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well, and I'm just going to flash through some of your artwork here, and give us the lowdown.
Well, I'm self-taught. Didn't go to school for any of the art or anything. I just wanted to draw. I early on got a lot of jobs, just working for bands or doing T-shirts, just anything I can do. I did my first comic book while I was working at like Wells Fargo. and just meeting random people around the North Hollywood area. And then so it just came from a love of just the art, a love of the medium. So I've done it was just reading comics. It was just admiring the art and admiring movies, like being really into movies and then I would read comic books. I started reading comic books later on in life and being more into storytelling and craft and the craft of that. I appreciate manga. Manga has a big influence on me as well. So it's just been a series of just trial and error, just drawing what I liked, copying what I liked, and then sort of just molding it into my own thing. And then the other comic books that I was doing was sort of in preparation for for what I was doing for Seasons. And Seasons has been it's like I say experiment, but not like in a I use Seasons as an experiment for me or something. But it's been a pretty good just process, just figuring out how to use digital to the best of my abilities, or using traditional means and mixing it in or something like that. Having that traditional look but in a digital way. I don't know. So it's been really fun just working on Seasons. And so so that's I met Nandor through social media, and it was ideally needed a job at the time. And
it was destiny. It was destiny.
Right. And it sort of just came out of nowhere. I remember it was just that week. It was just like when I was preparing all my art and preparing all the social media platforms to try to put myself out there. And it was just I think it was just a few weeks. And then suddenly I got hit up by Nandor, and then sort of it was all God, just sort of, here, you want to work in comics, but you want to struggle a little bit, here you go. And so that's what it was. And so, and struggle meaning just it's I can't feed a whole family with it, but I mean, it was paying work, and that's how it all started. But then I grew a good friendship with Nandor, and I finally made a book, always wanted to make a book, finally made a book. So things are happening, and so, I've put Nandor through a lot of ups and downs. It's been tumultuous here and there, but it's been good.
He didn't mention any ups. I mean, any downs. They were all ups when I was talking to him about your relationship. And I think that's one of the beauties of independent comics is you don't have an editorial staff, you don't have layers of bureaucracy or with publishers that have to where you have to get scouted and you have to go through portfolio reviews. It's sort of Nandor just saw your artwork on social media and said, hey, I'm going to reach out to this guy, and this guy being Anthony, of course. I didn't forget your name. Sort of talk to him about, what he can do. And it was just nothing I guess we're going to say divine intervention here. It's you had, it was just opportune situation where you were looking for some work and Nandor was looking for an artist, and the two of you just connected and you're creating beautiful artwork. Before we get into Seasons, though, I just flip through this really quickly. And what I would like to do before we get into our live drawing is I just want to show this work first, because Seasons is black and white, or at least it's selectively black and white with some accents of color. And I kind of learned a little bit about where those color accents go into play. But I wanted to show this because Anthony is not just a phenomenal penciler. He says he does traditional as well as digital. But look at these colors and inks, just great, just color combinations and the starkness of just using black backgrounds as well as light backgrounds, and the saturation is just impeccable. Your lighting, and I think that we had talked about your anime and manga influences. I just love this Motoko Kusanagi Ghost in the Shell piece that you did here, and I think we were talking about what was the strongest part of this composition. It was definitely the jacket fold. So that's what stood out. There's a lot of things that stand out in this drawing, but I was yes. And I was very proud of my lighting. Yes. And this is just a prelude to because Anthony's work is even more striking in black and white. It has a different type of impact, and it just makes the story that much more it resonates. I checked it out, and when you see the combination of this great story with this phenomenal art style, it just makes it so much more memorable. But now we are at 1:12 here, and we're going to just kind of jet through this because I want to get to live drawing, because we're doing it a little bit different. We're going to do live drawing as soon as possible, and because we want so Anthony has to jet a little bit later on. So that being said, let's show a little bit about Seasons, because this is what they're working on right now, and that's going to be, it's going to go into our first fan art. So I'm going to flash through this really quickly, but we're going to talk about this more in depth later on. But this is to give you our audience a hint of what they have to look forward to. And these were images that, I mean, as a graphic designer, I just see, I mean, aside from the phenomenal comic art here, I just love the composition of these things. I like the use of negative space and just these really deep, rich blacks, and how you're using design elements or visual elements to just accentuate your art. I like the screen tones, and yeah, I think Nandor just found a really great artist in you to help tell his story. And here's an example of using color, but it's a little bit flipped. You see him in black and white here, but you see these colors used for the background elements and some of the crowd here.
Yeah, I remember that one up there, and when Anthony and I were, that was the like first big like promo image for the series, and we wanted to do something like Watchmen-esque with the colors, and also because we knew it was going to be black and white, we wanted the main character to stand out there. So
yeah, well, mission accomplished. It looked really good, and you're seeing these influences that Anthony alluded to, and in terms of like what inspired both of them. You know, he mentioned Watchmen. You know, Anthony mentioned that this was an experimentation, and this is nothing but the best in experimentation. You can see an evolution in style here. You see things breaking outside of panels. You get these really unique panel shapes. It's just really great storytelling, and I'm just in awe of like some of these just these compositions. Each one of these little panels could be splash pages. They're just so they're handled so with such savvy that I'm, you know, just blown away.
Yeah, it's like experimentation. It's because like a lot of these things I've never done like rain and fight scenes and stuff, and it was just like, like all these different things. Like I've had to do fireworks. I've had to do. It's just there's so many different things that like just for one or two panels or something like that I've had to like figure out, how do I make this look like this, or how do I make this look anyway. So it's just I was, you know, we were talking, you know, I was let in all the little artist collaboration secrets here in terms of these perspectives and how you guys tell us how you work together to come up with the page layouts. Nandor has a definite eye for things, because he was telling me that he would actually do little thumbnail sketches that would accompany his scripts to you, so that way you could collaborate. You would see how it is. You could see if it worked compositional wise from an art standpoint, and then together you would come up with an even stronger composition. So I really like that whole approach, because that really shows that it isn't just a one-way street, you know, where the writer is telling the artist it has to be this way. I think when you see really good independent comics, it's because there's that tight integration of the writer and artist coming up with a really successful, you know, page composition. And you can just see from here, again, I love the speed lines. I can see the anime and the manga influences in this as well, and just phenomenal stuff. And like I said, just you see the impact of this black and white just really sings. And I'm just flashing through these really quickly. If you want me to stop, if you want to talk a little bit about it, we are at 1:16 now, so we're going to probably go into the first live drawing pretty soon. But I'm going to go finish this through, and we're going to check the comment fields. I skipped a little bit, and then we'll go into some live drawing. Oh, this is just some
another.
Of these here. I've always enjoyed some of the, like that one right there. Just it's a very simple, like it seems like a very simple page. There's not much going on. It's not simple. But I just like. It's just like I really enjoyed. Like a lot of these pages. Like I'll make it up as I go along. Yeah, we have a storyboard, and like this is how we think it's gonna go right now. And then as we either by the like after when I turn it in, it's like Nandor goes like, either we changed it or I did something to it, but I'll tell him. I think I always text you. I always go, hey, so I changed up this.
Yeah,
you're doing all this stuff.
Like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, let me see. Let's see what it looks like. And I'm like, I trust you. Like we've grown together collaboratively.
Uh-huh.
It's like when you have an eye for something, of course I'm gonna be like, well, hell yeah, like let's do it.
It's just what's up?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like in this and then just in this one here, I just like the second to third panel where it's just an animation I get to do. I've always enjoyed that, like just showing the progression, like in him slumping over. Like if you look into that, like you can see his eyes open because he's tired. It's just I really enjoyed that panel.
I wanted to go into a deep dive about this panel work because it was one of my favorite things that I talked with Nandor about. Is just really cool, but we have to get to the live drawing. But we'll have to readdress that a little later on. But it was really good. I mean, these diagonals, everything is like asymmetrical. But I like the whole design approach in terms of using this map and just that storyboard. You can almost see this as being like a movie, and that's the thing that I was joking around with him. I said, hey, I could definitely see this as being a series on Netflix, or it would definitely appeal to those Supernatural and those Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans, because just really good stories. And we're gonna have to talk about we're gonna learn a little bit about the primary protagonist in the story for our first live drawing, which is actually I'm gonna scroll through this really quick. We have Judith, of course, but this is Fletcher. And he's the main character in Seasons, and of course it is Seasons 2. So as we begin this first drawing challenge, where we're going to interpret this character, we're just going to start drawing with Anthony, and I'm going to let Nandor just sort of talk about who Fletcher is, and between the two of you, Anthony, I guess you'll have to do a little bit of draw and talk, and just sort of tell us a little bit about maybe the design decisions, about who he is, what he's about, and then of course talk about why it's called Seasons and things like. I mean, there's just so much to unpack, but I just want to like put it out there so the two of you can sort of vibe. Just tell us a little bit about who they are. But you saw in the comments section, you got some fans here. A lot of people were saying, really great artwork, great panel work. So I know that we're getting a really positive reaction already. So let's. It is 1:19 right now, so let's go for 15 minutes. And I'm going to isolate. Now, Anthony is going to be doing digital. So that's great, because now his art is going to be seen in the big picture right here. So, and my little picture right here is going to be me doing Fletcher here too. So between the two of you, go ahead and tell us, who is Fletcher and what is his role in Seasons? Take it away.
Well, wait, Nandor, first I was just going to say that, what is it? I was going through all my, I found a bag of art. So it was all the pages I've ever done for any of the comic books. They're all in there. I was like, man. And then I found all of, I know I kept them, but I was like, because we're moving and I'm just tossing things out.
Don't toss that. Do not toss that.
And I grabbed all of the storyboards. So we have all the storyboards, all the original sketches of all the characters and all that kind of stuff, of all the things that we did when we were first figuring all this out. So it was really cool.
You're gonna have to send me those.
I'm gonna bring it when I come see it. So
yeah.
Okay. Sure. Well, if you send it to him and you happen to accidentally send it to another person like me, you can do that as well. You got a really good big thing. You have a big fan here already. So let's start out with drawing it, and the two of you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about Fletcher and his role in Seasons.
Yeah. So Fletcher is the main man, the guy in the center of it all. He's thrust into this entire new way of looking at life and an entire new world, and it's out of his control, really. He's really not. He's like the reader in the sense of, he doesn't know what's happening to him. He doesn't know why these things are happening, and so Seasons is a 1-year journey for him, and so he's going to be taking on this path to self-discovery throughout this one initial year, and through it, he gets different abilities with each passing season, and so there's a lot of mystery behind why he has these abilities, and kind of the origin of his powers. And he's also really sort of a everyman, but not in this, like, he's relatable, but there's a lot of baggage that he has. And when we begin to like get to know him in the first book, the first volume, he's really depressed, really mentally kind of unstable in a way, and he's really desperate. He's a desperate guy, desperate figure. And he's really obsessed with this coworker at his work, and it's really kind of the only thing that he has to look forward to. He doesn't really have a connection with his family anymore. He doesn't have many friends. The friends he has are at work, and he's really this, like, kind of isolated figure that doesn't really have a purpose or at all. He's this blank slate. And when he finds this girl, this, like, interest, he thinks there's more to this relationship. There's more to this sort of friendship, but it really takes the turn for the worst, and it kind of it breaks him down mentally and emotionally, and that's where he begins to demonstrate these new abilities. And so it's like at the kind of the eve of could be his, like, really his downfall and his kind of self-destruction. He finds these abilities, and he's this other being comes out of him, which is his shadow self. And this being is everything that Fletcher would be without a conscience, and without any restraint, and basically kind of the hidden figure inside him, the person that's always wanted to come out, but he never let out. And now he's unrestrained. And the first volume really covers the idea of that duality of light and dark, and his inner self, and the person that you never want to see, you never want to be faced with, and that being that is always kind of hiding. And I've always been really interested in things we take for granted, for seasons. As an example, it's like change is a big part of our life, and there's all these fundamental truths and these universal truths that everyone experiences. And he's one of those figures that experiences these things. But also I've always been interested in the idea of, like, shadows, and kind of that Carl Jung kind of brought that out in a lot of his writing and works, where he talked about, like, the shadow and the shadow self. And I thought that was, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that you talked about his unique power set, and the reason why it's called Seasons. I think that's one of the really cool things that I noticed about it, is that aside from, like, it being a journey over time, and it's definitely in terms of, like, seasons like summer or spring, summer, which is the volume 2, which is summer. I just wanted to kind of, like, touch on that, is, like, the meaning behind seasons and how that really affects him in terms of what's revealed in season 2, it being summer. Can you tell us a little bit about how the uniqueness of his character's power set? Could you elaborate on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's really, really fun, and it's fun to write him because what's really cool about Fletcher is, so with each passing season, his abilities change. And I've always loved superhero comics and superhero books, and I've always when you gravitate towards a hero, like Superman, you're like, oh cool, he has his heat vision and his super strength and flight, and then it's like, but that's all. It's like what Superman can do.
Right.
And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if there was a character where his powers would change, so, like, it would always keep things fresh, and it would always keep things interesting. And with Fletcher in the first season, spring, he demonstrates light, dark, fire, and emotion, which is kind of this way to peer into other people's, you know, feelings and their fears and their desires, and also what, you know, the kind of going back to the shadow self, like that's the emotion unrestrained. You know, if you didn't have logic, if you didn't have anything to like keep you from just acting out all of your desires, you know, what would it look like? What would it be? And so that's what he demonstrates in the first book. And then in Summer, you know, he finds out, and this is the first time, you know, he really encounters it, is that, oh crap, like my powers aren't the same. Like there's something like something's different.
It's the twist. That was the twist.
Yeah.
Right? Uh-huh.
And it's really interesting because he has a conversation with the character in the book about this during Summer, and he's like, you know, there were certain things I was able to do before, but now it's completely different. And in Summer, he has the ability to control the earth and kind of like liquefy the earth, liquidate the earth, and also he has like super strength, which lends itself kind of naturally to like super speed and the ability to, you know, survive crashing through like 30, 40 story buildings, and the ability to, you know, lift buildings and you know, RVs and trailers and you know, debris, and you know, he can survive being in the eye of a hurricane. He can survive, you know, fighting a man on fire and, you know, not get burnt. And so he's kind of has this invincibility in this book. And then with Fall and Winter, with each book, it'll change. So you know, we know that as you know, as the creators and as the readers, but the characters themselves in the book don't know that. So it's really fun, and it was a joy as I was writing the series, figuring out, okay, what am I gonna give him this time? You know, what's he gonna have? You know, and because I love superhero books, and I thought it's so cool to like have a character where he could have every single power ever. It's just, you know, kind of spread out over 1 year. And so it makes things really interesting. And, you know, just as he's, you know, getting used to his abilities and what he can do, you know, the next season starts, and it's like, oh man, I gotta like figure out what I can do and what I can't do anymore. And it makes things, you know, really interesting for him. And, you know, it can lend itself to some humorous moments. It can lend itself to some really emotional moments, and, you know, great action set pieces as well. In the first book, one of my favorite kind of sequences is when he's kind of learning his abilities to kind of like hone them in, and he, you know, can control light. And so he's in his house, and he's just like, you know, flipping the light switch on and off, you know, and like, you know, kind of messing around and doing really cool, you know, kind of natural things you would naturally do if you had these abilities.
Right. You know, people are used to the clap on, clap off.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have to worry about that. It's like he has this power. And that was the charm, you know, that I found in when I was reading is that it's not the typical superhero type story. I mean, they don't wear, Fletcher doesn't wear a costume. He doesn't wear tights. Right. You know, he's a, I think that's what makes him relatable. We all have moments of depression and feeling that things are kind of like hopeless. We all have a, you know, workplace or school crushes, and you know, I think that's the thing is that, you know, you mentioned Superman, and you know, Superman is a great, like, I guess, role model, and he's like that person that, you know, that it's all great, you know, it'd be good if we could have his power set. But what's cool about Fletcher, he's relatable in the sense that he's imperfect. He would do things that if he discovered these powers, he would do things that we would kind of do as mere mortals who just were bestowed, you know, a new power.
Yeah,
and that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, and I think too what makes Fletcher really relatable and a neat character is, you know, he's really not in control, and that's really hard for us as human beings to like realize. Like, we're not in control of like what's going on around us, and you know, we can control ourselves to a certain extent, but even that, there's a lot of subconscious and like kind of psychological things that kind of influence us that we're not used to, or like childhood trauma and all these things. And so that was really and that's somewhat kind of symbolically at work within the series with his powers, because it's like these are given to him, and he discovers them, and he's like, how do I use these, and like, why is this happening to me? And it's if you were to just wake up one day and all of a sudden you could do something extraordinary, like, it's interesting to play with the idea of like, would you tell people, or would you be afraid, would you be afraid that they would look at you differently? Would you would you feel like a freak even more? Would you be afraid of the government? Like all these things. And so and what makes him such a great character in that way is because since he is so isolated, he doesn't really feel like he has anyone to talk to or anyone to reveal it to. And so he's on his own. And in Summer, he finally encounters other beings that are displaying kind of like supernatural abilities, and he finally feels like he can have someone to talk to about these things, and especially one character in the book called Heath, who displays like flight and like the wind. He's basically kind of the personification of wind, and he's kind of like a part mentor, friend to Fletcher, and Fletcher looks up to him, and he can actually kind of have a conversation with someone who is another fish out of water, and that makes for some really great character moments too, because Fletcher can finally kind of
let his guard down, kind of like
let his guard down, be a little vulnerable, but at the same and that plays into his strength ability. It's like on the outside he's so strong, and on the outside he can survive anything, but on the inside there's a lot of issues, and there's a lot of problems, and there's a lot of things that he doesn't understand. And while it looks like he's kind of holding himself together, is he really? And that's something that I always like kind of making the audience and the readers think about is what are you seeing, and what is actually happening, on the inside, and bringing those character moments out. And that was something really exciting about Summer, is we really got to, after kind of, it's cool because after, you set the stage and you get the origin down, and you really kind of give the foundation for what the series is going to be, from then on, you can really start growing.
Having fun. Right.
Yeah,
it's like you basically have to spend, I think, spring, which is really cool, because I think this is the thing about the whole metaphors behind it being called seasons, and showing the character evolution, where you kind of have to establish who the characters are, what the story's about, and that's spring. And then summer, you get to see things, come to full fruition, totally bloom, and that's where you start to have fun, because you've done all the work in terms of founding it. 15 minutes over. Okay, let me just do a little quick here. So let's. Right. Okay, so I'm gonna have to.
Great, guys. It's looking great.
Yeah, I sort of put a lot of pressure on you to keep on talking, and then I didn't realize the time was going. Yeah. So let me isolate this, because look at this. What I really got out of this Fletcher's character is that he's I'm going to use the word emo, but I mean that in the most positive way. Yeah, it's like he's emo in the sense that his expressions and his body language just really exudes. You can see the emotion. You can see the if there's something that's heavy on his mind. It's like you almost feel like there's the weight of the world that's upon him, and that's translated so well in Anthony's drawings. I mean, look, I don't know, is that was something, I guess, when you were coming up with these character designs, is that something that you consciously wanted to do? Say, hey, we want to make sure that his body language is reflected in terms of like whatever inner turmoil he's going through. But yeah, that's a question for both of you. Yeah. Okay. So.
I mean, like that was something I remember the first time Anthony sent me some like headshots and some when we were kind of developing what the character would look like, and I really wanted, you know, someone that looked like, even though he's really young, looked like he'd been through some stuff, you know, and yes. he would kind of display that, you know, visual, like, you know, on his face, and you know, he looks morose, he looks somber, and you know, you can tell there's this like darkness and this deepness of this character behind those eyes, and you know, by how he carries himself, and you notice that a lot in the series, the way Fletcher, the way I write him, and the way he kind of moves. You know, he's really he's chill, you know, and he's not quick to action. He's not necessarily really impulsive, and he's uncertain. And I think that is really key for the character.
Absolutely. I mean, we got my partner in crime here. He's a co-founder of Comics Gas, just chiming in here. Love the hands gesture. It really shows your ability to show expressions. Wow, nice. And that's what I think that when we show the Kickstarter page, and you know, I just flashed through a lot of the art that they sent me in terms of just who this character is, Fletcher, and the compositions, and just body language is phenomenal. And I think there is no static in there unless it's intentional. There's no like just in terms of just a boring pose. I mean, even just a standing pose can be very dynamic if handled right. And that's an example right here. He's just standing, but you can see he's like contemplating with his hands in terms of like what his next move is. And, you know, I figured that if, you know, Anthony, if you want to take that to the next level and share that with us a little later on, I know you're in the middle of doing a lot of different things, but, you know, feel free to do that. We'll post it as a follow-up. But so we get into our next drawing, I just want to like show mine real quick, because I was just in love with this character. I think he's just really cool. And I started it.
Cool.
And,
that's awesome.
But I was kind of torn between whether I wanted to show him he almost has a little bit of that Marvel Cinematic Universe Iron Man super pose where they kind of land. And I was like, I'm making him a little too cliche. That wasn't intentional. It just sort of happened out that way. But I was talking about just, you know, we were talking about seasons between seasons 1 and seasons 2 in terms of his power set. And his power set in season 1 was the light dark duality. With the fire and the empathy that he can or he's an empath. He can kind of like read people's you know, emotions, and you know, so I thought that was really cool. And so I didn't know if these were the light and dark powers, or maybe it could be something like later on, maybe that he's about ready to do his earth manipulation power, which is in seasons 2. So that's something I'll kind of like look forward to as well. And it looks like we might have lost your
hold on a second. Let me sorry about that.
No problem. So let me remove this, and we're going to go into our second, live drawing thing. And I forgot to mention, we've been doing this in a lot of our previous shows. If any of our guests are watching and when they want to draw along, feel free to do that, and you know, let us know what you think in the comments section. Check us out on YouTube as well under Indie Comics Cast. But yes, if you want to draw along, just let us know in the chat stream, the comments stream. Let us know that you are drawing along, and then you can post it to the art show. Let us know to look there, and then we'll pull it up and we'll share that. So here we are, we're at 1:40. So that gives us 20 minutes, man. This has been the most disciplined I've been about drawing in terms of like time. I usually get curious.
Dude. Sorry.
No problem. No need to apologize. Like, I just want to like get as many eyes on the fantastic artwork and the storytelling behind this. So it's very hard for me to not, you know, just go down the rabbit hole and sort of just keep on gushing about how awesome, you know, this project is. But let's do drawing number 2. We're only going to be doing 2 drawings this time around, because Anthony has to leave. So just to refresh, or just to let people know what we're going to do, let's see, stop sharing your screen just for once. Well, actually, I don't think we need to, because I think our next drawing subject is very familiar to a lot of our audience. And I think that if you aren't familiar with it, then you need to turn in your geek card, or at least your Star Wars card. So one thing that, and that's the hint of what we're going to do. Our second live drawing challenge is going to be Princess Leia. And after talking to Nandor and Anthony, we were talking about like, what could we draw? And, you know, Star Wars, being the uber geeks that we are, you know, came up. And Princess Leia was a nice fan choice that we kind of settled on, because Anthony pretty much told us that the Disney trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the Rogue One, Solo, all that stuff is not worth watching. Only, even in the original trilogy, only New Hope and Empire is worthy of actually of fandom. But we'll leave it open to that in terms of that. And he can actually explain why he liked Princess Leia, because that's what we settled on. So we can do any era of Princess Leia. So let's do that, and the two of you can talk about your influences in terms of like how Star Wars kind of maybe impacted you as artists, writers, in terms of like who Princess Leia is to you. I mean, the sky's the limit. You guys just talk away in terms of the relevance of Star Wars and Princess Leia in your careers.
Cool.
Well, I'll add the corrections to the story real quick about the. So it's my wife who told me to draw Princess Leia. And it was like that week. It was that week that Carrie Fisher had died, right? And
yes.
So, but she told me to draw because we were trying to get Instagram. Like I was trying to get just fill my Instagram up with art and not just random things, but just focus on art, do some fan art. And so she suggested to do Princess Leia, and then that week she died, right? So it's like
that was, and you don't usually draw like fan art. It was just coincidental in terms of fan art of Princess Leia.
Yeah, I was just beginning my whole fan art stuff, and I was like, well, what's a big thing? It was Star Wars, and so we just decided to do. I decided to do Princess Leia. Yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, so there you go. So it was my wife who told me to draw Princess Leia. Yeah.
Well, it's good to have I can't speak for that. I don't have a wife to tell me what I should be drawing. So I guess maybe I need to have a muse or somebody who can tell me, and maybe I can be just as successful as you guys in coming up with getting establishing that social media presence. But I haven't put a mark down yet. And look at Anthony. He's already drawing. So Nandor, you want to talk about in terms of I know that you mentioned George Lucas and the whole mythological approach that he kind of does in terms of how he weaves in mythos and archetypes and things like that. As a writer, tell us a little bit about how you took some of that George Lucas, that inspiration from his brand of storytelling and how that kind of inspired you. You want to talk about that while we're drawing away?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think, honestly, even more so than comics and superheroes, I don't think anything has influenced me, or I'm a fan of anything compared to Star Wars. I mean, that's just something that I my dad showed me the VHS tapes when I was a small boy, and I'd rewatch them, and I didn't see episode 1 in the theaters. I was only 2 years old when Phantom Menace came out, but I did see Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith in the theaters. So all of those first 6, I rewatched and watched just a ton of, and I always appreciated the way George Lucas could put so much visual storytelling, in a single frame that might just be 5 to 10 seconds. There's so much world building and so much interesting things that he was able to do. And growing up, when I of course I got into all the mythology of Star Wars, and I have all these lore books and things that I would read as a kid. And then I started to get into all the behind the scenes, how they made the movies and how they were able to, get the first movie off the ground. And I learned that Empire Strikes Back was basically, an indie film in a sense, because George Lucas financed it himself. And it's really, really interesting to learn about those things growing up. And when you think about it, because no one liked Star Wars when he was pitching it. No one wanted it, except I think Spielberg was the only person who thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, and in fact, I guess that kind of says that George Lucas was an indie like you guys. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, he was kind of an outsider, kind of kind of
for sure.
right.
It's really, it's crazy to think about it, but I mean, that's what he is, and he's always kind of seen himself that way. He's never really fit in with the Hollywood crowd and with the blockbuster type stuff, and so. Learning all about that was a big inspiration for me too, because as someone who wanted to create, and I thought, I mean, if so, of course, if everyone in the world is telling you, your idea is not good, you should probably listen. But at the same time, I think it's really important to, if you really believe you have a great idea and you really believe in what the story you're trying to tell and what you're doing. It gave me a lot of motivation to keep going and to keep pushing and to keep thinking, if I have to finance this myself, I'll do it. George Lucas did it, and look what happened. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like if you don't take a shot, I mean, you're just going to be regretting it later on. And even if I mean, he doesn't, like, for decades he didn't have to do anything else because he just made Star Wars, and that's incredible to think about. And so in terms of his storytelling and what he can do, I've always been really fascinated with mythology in the way, of course, like, he'll bring archetypes, and he'll I always love the family aspect of Star Wars as well, and the generational tale. And
yes,
there's you see it somewhat in Seasons, but there's definitely this hint of, like, Fletcher wanting to be closer to his family, and wanting to kind of rebind those bonds, and so, like, with that in mind, like, I've always seen, and family's always been so important to me, and that was something that was kind of really important in the Star Wars mythos too, is kind of the tragedy of the Skywalker saga, and how Luke believed that there was still good in his father, and the whole redemption element to Star Wars is incredible. And that, more than anything, I think the redemption story that Star Wars is, and if I were to frame the key word of Star Wars, I'd probably say it's that, because
the redemption part that you're talking about.
Yeah, like when you think someone is so far gone, like Darth Vader, but you have someone who still believes, like, hey, like he doesn't have to stay this way. He doesn't have to die being the villain. And Luke brings his father out of that, and it's just like, it's incredible. It's really powerful. I remember watching that with my dad, and it was emotional, like, growing up, because it was just like, man, like, I felt what Luke was feeling, and I can feel that intensity and that emotional weight to thinking, like, what if your dad, just slaughtered millions of people and was this bad person, and the fact that you could still believe in him and still think that you can be redeemed. I was like, wow. And that's something that is brought into Seasons, because it is a story of redemption in one element, because Fletcher has had a lot of heartache and a lot of pain and a lot of issues, and he doesn't feel like he deserves a second chance. And so I think, with the idea of shame and the idea of being an outsider, not feeling like you fit in, a lot of people can feel like, well, this is it. This is just what it's going to be for the rest of my life. When honestly, there are other people rooting for you, and other people that want you to get out of that funk and out of that, tragic state. And that's something that Fletcher is trying to do. And it's incredibly difficult, because it's like, wait, there's more to life, and there's more to who I am as a person. And that really was important to me. And with going back to Star Wars, that was so influential in the kind of stories I wanted to write. And it's like, even though there's all of this spectacle and all this flash and all of this, there's lightsabers, which is basically probably the greatest fantasy creation ever made.
I agree completely. But that's just like window dressing, right? You're talking. It's because it's the you can take out lightsabers and Jedi and Sith and whatever, but it's the character evolution. It's showing the hero's journey, redemption. I think that those are all themes. Those are archetypes that I think that you drew from Star Wars, and that's what makes for a compelling character. And so I think Fletcher, you kind of say that in terms of like what he's done so far. I mean, he's not like Darth Vader. He hasn't like slaughtered.
Yeah, no.
He just has that he doesn't have purpose. You feel like he feels kind of hopeless, and that's his. He's finding redemption in that, right? And he's trying to like, or not redemption. He's trying to like find his way, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and you see it, and he sees it in himself too, where he sees the person that he could turn into be. He sees the person that, and in a bad way, like seeing his shadow and seeing his shadow self reflected.
Literally seeing his shadow self, right?
Yeah, like I have all of this. I have all of these kind of, evil things I could do, and evil thoughts, and these really, kind of a murderous heart in a way, because I feel like, there's a lot of things that we have to catch ourselves on, and a lot of anger that people have to fight back and hold back. You're in a really tough situation at work, or in a relationship, or with a stranger, and it's like, if someone keeps pushing you hard enough, what are you going to do? And Fletcher has the tendency to lash out and not to be humble and kind of control himself. And so and that's not something that he really shows outwardly, but his shadow self does. And so he sees that, and he goes, oh crap, like, is this who I am? Is this who I could be? And that fear puts him on the path to go, man, there's something really wrong with me, and there's something wrong with the person that I could be. It's like I have two options in front of me, be better or be worse. But there is no stay the same. That's not an option anymore. And so, he has to decide, and he has to figure out what that looks like.
And I think that's the cool thing, is that you've found a way to, for the character to show that in a literal sense. I mean, he in spring, volume 1, his light dark powers, he actually is confronted with a literal manifestation of his dark side. So it's not just like Luke seeing Anakin or Darth Vader. That's a path that he could become. And Lucas does that thing where he shows like Luke's hand. Later on when it's mechanical. But here you've advanced it. You're showing that same duality, but it's a literal manifestation of everything about him that could be potentially evil. And that's the character growth. That's the showing the evolution of a character. And that's what I liked about it, because and that's just season 1. It's like it's like there's not going to be that literal duality, but you're going to see the next phase in his growth as it goes to seasons volume 2, the summer. But I think that's a clever way of showing that character development, showing how the character grows, and allowing the readers to see the evolution, seeing where they come from. And that being said, is like, I think your impression of the new Star Wars trilogy, the Disney trilogy, where I think maybe that lack of maybe character development. I mean, did you feel that not hating on the Disney trilogy, but what was, as a writer, what do you think about the way the story was developed in terms of like developing Finn and Rey and Poe, and of course just dropping the bomb and putting Palpatine back in there? Spoiler, I hope everybody's watched it already. But how did you feel about that in terms of like
I don't know if you want to ask my opinion on that kind of stuff.
Okay, maybe that might be a little bit of a loaded question, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of, it's bad. Like I just, like, it's awful. Like I watched the Disney trilogy, and Force Awakens, like I saw potential. Like I saw, things could hopefully, you know, they'll get better. It kind of was, you know, it's basically just a retread of New Hope. It's basically just
It was
the same movie, you know, the
Yeah.
same exact movie. It's like, okay, I can kind of see why you did that. You know, I get it. You know, you gotta try to bring in the new generation, and you don't want to like do anything too crazy and make people mad. But then at the same time, you made so many other people mad by doing that. So it's like, you know, you can't please everyone. But I thought, okay, maybe
potential. You saw potential.
Like The Last Jedi, I was really excited because I was like, okay, like let's see. You know, you had Ryan Johnson, you had someone who was a new, you know, new face in the crowd, someone who would hopefully have a new original vision. And
he had original vision.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, he had some type of vision.
Yes, exactly.
But not forward vision, because I don't think he saw like just how bad that was. Like, honestly, man, like that's like maybe my least favorite movie of all time. Like I really do not like The Last Jedi.
Well, I think that kind of gives you a, you know, I often say this, is that sometimes, not that it should have been on a property like Star Wars, but sometimes you have to see something really bad to appreciate what's really good. And I think that also makes you more cognizant about like how you want to write your stories. I think with the Disney trilogy, I don't think they had like a end game. They didn't really think about what the story was going to be like from movie to movie, and that was what was that was totally transparent. I mean, I think that they didn't know what was going to go, and that's what I think Seasons is about. We talked about this yesterday, and I want you to share it in terms of like the fact that it's called Seasons, and there are 4 seasons, which means there's a 4 seasonal arc. You know, that's why I said this could be on Netflix. You could do 4 seasons, you could do episode treatments, but that goes to show is that you have definite goals that you want to tell. There is a, you know, there is an ending. You know what's going to be happening. So you're not doing the J.J. Abrams style, you know? So
like going into this story, I knew there was a definite ending there. You know, of course there had to be, and I don't like it when things just keep going and going and going, and with especially, you know, the what makes Seasons what it is that idea of a 1-year journey. So it's like I knew that, well, hey, like where are we going to end up in a year? What does that look like? And so early on, I made sure that I had things mapped out, and it was, you know, it's really important for me as a reader to read a story and to feel like you have a satisfying ending, and you have all this capitalization. And you know, that's what with Star Wars, you know, with each I feel like with the original trilogy and with the prequel trilogy, there was at least, you know, George Lucas knew where he wanted to go, and he knew which story he wanted to tell with each one. We can debate about, you know, how good it was, but at least he knew what he was wanting to, where he was wanting to go.
There was an end game.
Right.
I'm using that Avengers term, but it definitely had a way to make sure that there was a definite beginning, ending, and conclusion. I mean, beginning, middle, and conclusion.
And so that's what I appreciate that. And I know yesterday I mentioned how Jonathan Hickman is a real big influence, the way he constructs these, like, you know, like few years of like stories, you know, when it comes to issue by issue. You know, he can tell this big, massive story, and it takes like 3 to 5 years to tell it. But the thing is that it actually makes sense, and it actually works, and it's actually, you feel invested. And you know, when you get to issue like 18, you know, you feel
there's a payoff.
You feel like we're here at issue 18. It feels like you actually are getting, you know, something for you know, how much money you spent and how much time you spent on it.
Right. And I think that as a writer, and I think as you get to be in the driver's seat, so you get to kind of like say, hey, this is how I want to drive the story and make sure that those things are there. And I think Anthony, in terms of like when you're working with Nandor in terms of like these projects, he mentioned that you're putting since you know the story, I guess you have an outline of what the story is going to be like. It's like plugging in all those little details that will be considered kind of like Easter eggs, because they're kind of like foreshadowing what's going to be coming. And I think that's the cool thing, I think, right? I mean, in terms of like,
for people that read volume 1, there's going to be some things in there that they're going to be a little confused about, or thinking like, well, okay, how does this fit in the larger story, or how does this fit in this story? And it's like I have to remind people and be mindful of the fact that this is a 4-story series, and like everything is meant to connect and feel interconnected. We have these smaller stories inside a larger one, and to me that keeps everything a lot more interesting and exciting as a reader, because you can still have those spontaneous moments, but you still feel like you're guided along, and that where we end up is where it was headed all along, and you can really enjoy that and feel. And that way, when you finish it, you can go back and reread it and go, that's what that was about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what also makes for a compelling storyline, is that you're thinking about that. There's a close collaboration. There isn't going to be like, you talk about Hickman. Sometimes there might be like multiple artists that he may work with, that he's telling that story. And you said it could take 2 years, 3 years to complete that story. And maybe sometimes you can't really have that kind of connection, that synergy, or that, that being able to have that relationship with your artist, to make sure that those storytelling elements are taken through there. And that's the beauty also of being an independent comic creator. When you get that you're lucky to have find an artist who shares your vision, and you can make sure that those things translate. They get
everything's going to be consistent. Like not only visually, but like when we bring characters back, or if we go back to the same location, it'll be like, oh, like this is where it was before, and you'll be able to recognize it better, for sure.
So guys.
I know you got to get out of here. I always feel so horrible, because we're gonna get to look at your art, Anthony. But it's like I feel like I want to know the man behind the art, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about your process. But I think maybe we're gonna have you on a repeat show. We're gonna have to
definitely. I would do that. Yeah,
and that way we can hear the artistic side of it as well. But that being said, I know you got to leave, so let's let me isolate your screen. And check this out, guys. I mean, this has been a treat. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this, because this is the thing that happens to me whenever I watch or have guests. I can't watch them do art, because one, I'd probably be intimidated and just want to stop, put my pencil down, and say, I give up. I'm just gonna watch the artist. And then so I have to go back and watch it a little later on. But yes, so here you have it, Princess Leia. I see it. Really good, and she actually has this little bit of a pinup look vibe to it. I have to say, there's a bit of a really cool factor about it. Just like the Motogo Kusanagi, you've really paid attention to the folds in the inner outfit,
and the clothes and everything. Right, I'm trying to do more and more front views, and nowadays, because it can get a little too, anyways.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you zoom in a little bit? Let's see her face. This is really cool, because this one has a little bit more of a I'm not, and I mean this in the most. I mean, it has more of a J. Scott Campbell kind of style when you compare. This shows this has the versatility of your style, because if you compare this to what we showed for Seasons, there's that kind of that gritty, dark look to it, the emo look that I kind of suggested. But here, it just goes to show that you're a man of many different art styles. And
I studied a lot of a lot of J. Scott Campbell's, just like lips wise, like lips. I was always that's something that I was always doing, and because he always drew the lips and the noses, and the eyes, and it was just like a perfect. So I always kind of took those in, but I always kind of start out with some sort of little sketch like that. Then I kind of go in later on, and I kind of, muck it up with my own little style. But I just, Yeah.
Well,
So,
if you call that a muck up, then I want some of that muck up. I want to be able to muck up just like you. Now, I know you got to get out of here, so
yeah,
I still want to pick your brain about a lot of stuff, but we're just gonna have you on another show so we can
just have Nandor talk about Star Wars for the 2 hours, and maybe.
Well,
and then,
he's just gonna talk in your voice for the rest of the show. But before you leave, I would just like to hand the mic over to you, and just any of your final thoughts in terms of just like if you want to share with our audience in terms of like your art style. I definitely encourage people to check out the ticker below to check out more of his work on Instagram. But you can see just why Nandor picked him to do Seasons, because it's the versatility of his art style. And you will definitely see, and it's not the character evolves, Fletcher evolves from season to season, but you are actually seeing what was great art get even greater from season to season. The story picks up and the art picks up. So Anthony, any parting thoughts before you have to get out of here? I just want you to it's you. Thank you. You can think of it as your Oscar speech. You can thank whoever you want.
Well, not many thoughts about all this stuff. It's just like all my art is just you keep drawing, you draw what you like, you keep practicing on that. Don't steal as much. Just keep drawing and keep practicing. I mean, that's pretty much it. And then you start seeing something come out of you that you didn't know was there. So there's lots of things. There's something there that you probably never saw before. Just keep drawing. I don't know. That's pretty much it. And then it's okay to like this. It's like I borrow from a lot of different artists and I kind of mold it together or whatever and make it into sort of my own. And it's just how it's going to go for right now until I have more time to just sit there, practice. And so I still have a lot of practice to go. And just keep reading, keep drawing, and just keep doing it.
And buy seasons 2 and 3 and 4 when it was completed. And you're right. I mean,
go over to the Kickstarter and support Seasons, because that'll kind of continue my job.
Exactly.
And my work,
So I know you got to go. So I'm gonna wish you well on your good way. You're going away get together, and of course you're going to be moving. So keep us up to date in terms of what you're doing. I'm going to keep in touch with both of you. And I'm going to continue the discussion, obviously, with Nandor about stuff. But you see all these obvious styles. You have manga, anime, Western. You got the J. Scott Campbell influence here, and it's just a really dynamic, fluid style. And it's not, it's nothing wrong with like being influenced by other artists. But in the end, like you said, take what you see in there and then kind of like mold it and make it your own. And then next thing you know, Anthony's going to be like the next J. Scott Campbell, and Nandor is going to be the next Hickman. But I wish you well.
I was going to say, just to hook it into like the Star Wars thing. It's like, so there's a way. When you're drawing, when you're making comics, when you're writing them and whatnot, do it with earnestness. Don't trade it in for avarice, as what Star Wars did. Okay, they were looking for greed. They were looking for riches. That's what ruined Jedi. That's what ruined the Star Wars franchise. All the earnestness went away. So there you go. Draw with earnestness, write with earnestness, and you'll make something great. And always go for the heart. There you go.
Well, that probably has to be one of the best final, last thoughts that I've ever heard. Preach. So I wish you well. Before you leave, let me just share real quickly with you my Princess Leia here.
Oh yeah.
I kind of like copped out. I did the Return of the Jedi version, and it was an excuse because I could get away with not having to do any of the underlying anatomy. I just put the poncho over.
I just went for sex. I went for sex. I was like, I went even lower.
Well, like I said, in terms of like mucking things up or going lower, that's a style that I want to adopt. So thank you so much. I wish you well, and we'll just continue the conversation with Nandor. So thank you very much. See you later.
Hey, I'll see you later, Anthony.
Okay. All right. So
right, man.
That was phenomenal. I'm gonna have to go back and watch.
I know. I was. While I was talking, I was able to still watch you guys, and so I was thinking about what you guys were drawing as I was talking too, and I was just like, I wanted to say like, oh my gosh, this is this is looking so great, but I had to keep my train of thought.
Yeah, well, and that's what I have to deal with every show. Every guest that I have just brings something new to the table, and that's what I got with you. I mean, we had our pre-show yesterday, and it might as well have been a show because we were talking for I don't know, like 3 hours basically.
Yeah,
we had so much, and I think this is a good I guess talk about where we're gonna go with this next segment of the show, because we kind of went backwards a little bit here. Not backwards, we did it reverse from our normal formula. So that let's talk more about seasons, because this is your baby right now. And let me get rid of my art here. Let's remove this and let me pull up seasons. So, and that would be what's currently live on Kickstarter. And I'm going to change the banner here so that people can go check it out. So you can obviously check out this link here. You can type that in, or you can just go to Kickstarter and type in Seasons Volume 2, and you'll be able to find it. But yeah, we talked at length about what Seasons means, who Fletcher is, his power set. I mean, there's just so much to unpack here. And we alluded to, like, when we drew Star Wars, Princess Leia, in terms of like George Lucas and the whole mythology and the archetype angles, in terms of like showing really cool character development. We talked about where Seasons was in terms of spring, and that was Fletcher discovering he has a power set, and the duality of the light and dark power, and how he is having to confront that dark side of him as well, literally. And then as we go into season 2, tell us a little bit about this next stage, like where Fletcher is. And once we do that, let's talk about a little bit about the future without being any spoilers. But let's talk about a little bit about season 2 in terms of like where he's going.
All right, yeah. So we left Fletcher really in a state of uncertainty, and he at the end of volume 1, he realizes that he has those two options, like I said earlier, where he could go, what the person he could be. And with Summer, it kicks off right like if you were to read Spring and you see the final splash page of Spring, and then you open Summer, it's right where it leaves off, and so there's no time. Like Spring ends on June 21st, so Summer begins right on June 21st. So it's like
it's the whole point of it. It is a season. Right? It's like
right. And so you page 1, you open it up, and you're going to be taken for a ride right off the bat. And he's in a place of really trying to figure out what his next step is, and he encounters these other, as I said earlier, these other beings that are displaying this like supernatural ability, but not necessarily in the same way he is. And so he's interested in that, and he's trying to find his footing kind of in this new world that he's discovering. And so I kind of have framed it to where Spring was his battle with inner turmoil. Summer is his battle with like outer antagonism, and really being out of control for what he has to deal with in this story, and not knowing what to do. And he finds himself in a new city in this volume called Quain Harris, and it's like a sort of a Las Vegas type Sin City. And so he enters this new city, and it kind of harkens back to the things that he's had to deal with, and the struggles that he's had within himself. And so while all this is kind of happening on the outside of him, he encounters this being called Heath, and he's a real person, but he displays these wind abilities. He's a personification of wind, and he
there's like a totally different power set, and he's not limited. He's not limited to his power set. Is it not? Is it dictated by the season too, just like him? Just like Fletcher?
Yeah, the power set, depending on the season, that's what his power set will be.
Okay, so these other superpowered beings also are, I think that's the thing too, is that I'm take it that it's going to be revealed, because like all of a sudden these other superpowered beings are appearing. And
right.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, that's another narrative hook, is like all of a sudden, it was all about him internally for spring, and then as it goes in the summer, it's an external type thing. Now he's meeting other beings, and and you mentioned Heath, and you talked about that this is like his exploration of being able to kind of come to terms with his own powers and accept himself, and see, I guess Heath, he represents somebody who has control, right? And knows
right. And he's at the same time, every one of these abilities that these new characters, because we're introducing a lot of new characters in this storyline, they all it all kind of is analogous, to their own personal struggles and their own fears and their own desires too. And Heath himself, like, he represents wind, and he loves music, he loves the outdoors, he loves the idea of being free, and freedom, and he can fly, so he has that ability. And Heath also is afraid, though, of kind of his life fading before his eyes, and that kind of plays into his ability too, of kind of being transparent and being feeling like he's fading away as a person. And so all of that is displayed with the power set. And then with Judith, who I labeled her like a siren.
This is Judith, right?
Yeah, that's Judith right there. And she can control, like, the water, and Fletcher and Heath meet her in a hurricane on the shore of South Carolina. And so, like, they're both really in this whirlwind of events. They're being strung along, and they're trying to catch up with everything that's happening. And the reason for that is, for summer, anytime summers come around, that's when you start going out, that's when you start doing things, that's when things start happening, and things are wild and more exciting for people. And that's something that I wanted to bring to the narrative for this story, where spring is the beginning, spring is blooming, and this is like Fletcher blooming as a character, and summer is like, this is when the blockbuster is happening, this is when, like, things are starting to reveal themselves, and we can start, like, getting excited and really starting to see some questions answered. And
and that's the thing that I really like. I mean, when you're describing about Heath, and Heath being almost like he's like a mentor, I guess, in a certain sense, but he's also like a contrast. I mean, you talked about, and this is what I appreciate talking here. I'm used to talking just to artists, but we're talking about writing now, and about, you just described, like, and this is me, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was so, to me, it sounds like it was so purposeful in terms of, like, giving, what you wanted to do with Heath, and also Heath's power set. I mean, you talk about him being the embodiment of wind, and you talk about him being transparent, and him being somewhat free. I mean, it's like, we talked about the duality of Fletcher with his dark and light powers, and being able to show that dark side of him. And then you have Heath, who's coming in here, and he represents that freedom. And it's the freedom of when you think about flight, you're not constrained. And I was just thinking about how you were talking about Heath, and Fletcher's new power set in this season is manipulation of the earth. And I was like thinking to myself, tell me if this is, like, I'm sure it's completely intentional. It's like, so it's sort of like he's grounded, and you have Heath, who's, like, free. He's exactly. And I think that's it. It's just like, I'm not saying that I'm like Mr. Sherlock here, but I'm just saying that this is one of those.
I mean,
I'm just saying that these are powerful narrative devices. I think we talked about this too yesterday, about how stories today, like movies, it's almost, I love Michael Bay. I think Michael Bay is a phenomenal cinematographer, but they're good popcorn flicks. They're good just escapism type things, but they're somewhat mindless. It's like if you really want to think, watch a Nolan movie or something like that. Where it really makes you, to the point where it hurts your head a little bit. But I think that's the thing about what you're doing. It's a very cerebral thing. There's everything that you do is very intentional. It's building up that narrative. You don't just introduce a new character who's going to be a mentor, but his power set is meant to teach something. It's meant to explain things. And even Fletcher's, his new power set represents an evolution in his character. that's what you're doing, with Judith too. She's the wild one. She's in the storm.
Yeah, right. And Fletcher can, all these characters. Since Fletcher is the center of it all, when I was trying to, really give all of these characters more personality and more depth, I thought, well, what is the best way to show that? And it is contrasting and relating to Fletcher. It's like, since he is at the center, everything else needs to feel like it's revolving around him and somehow kind of correlates to his own path, because we want you to root for this guy and also kind of understand him more. And the best way to do that is to have these other characters that, can show that off and bring that out of him. And he really is a kindred spirit with Heath, but also with Judith a little bit, because he understands the kind of pain she's going through. And it's like, the idea of the storm, is on here visually, it's this spectacle. It's this, amazing sequence where, Fletcher and Heath have to traverse it. But the thing is, it's meant to kind of play on the idea of, there's a storm within all of us, when we have to navigate our own emotions and our own personal struggles. Sometimes you feel like, you could explode on the inside when you're really dealt with a really emotional thing. And
it's that raging storm that's inside us. That's like the inner turmoil that can be, and that's what I think is really cool, is that these characters that you're coming up with, I mean, their powers are, they're personifications of, I don't know if that's the correct term to use.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. They use, their power sets are personified in terms of whatever inner struggle or thing that they're going through. It reflects them, in terms of what they're doing. And I thought that it's, on the surface, you're reading this, there's such I think there's a thoughtful, like I said, a cerebral approach that's aside from these, I've been scrolling through this while you've been talking.
Yeah.
And, I was just seeing just how dynamic these things are in these compositions in terms of like what you and Anthony were able to achieve. I mean, even these quiet moments of like this particular page where it's a very a thoughtful approach. There's no action, but it's like you don't see the word bubbles here, but you can already see that, you can see that Fletcher is in a deep, he's like really thinking, he's contemplating about what his next move is. And the starkness of the black and white really, pays off here. And here, we're talking about, I think this is Heath. That's right here in this panel here. But I'm looking at this and sort of like, it reminds me of that whole scene where in Henry Cavill in Man of Steel, when he first learns how to fly, like, and he doesn't quite land, he doesn't land it literally, but I think that this is the expression, is like, I look through all the pictures of Fletcher prior that you'd sent me, and he does have that brooding, like, emo look to him, and here we see a smile, and then he's like, really, he feels free, he's learning from Heath.
That goes back to that idea of kind of Heath being that person that Fletcher would like to be, to get that sense of freedom, and that's something that's shown in the story, because Heath can fly. And Fletcher, the most he can do is, jump really high, because he has, super strength. And so he envies that. He's jealous of that. And that's directly on that page there. And he's trying to find that freedom, but he lands, and he doesn't land well. And Heath is kind of laughing at him, because he's like, what are you trying to do, man? Like, you can't fly. Like, you're not there yet.
Well, that too is really cool. It's like, what are you trying to do? I think these are messages that you're kind of showing. Is like, in season 1, he feels like he doesn't really have an identity, and here he's trying to come up with an identity, and Heath is kind of like telling him, why are you trying to do something that you can't do? Why not just focus on what you can do, be good at that, and I think these are nice little lessons that you're kind of weaving into it. And like I said, we can keep on gushing about the art, but I wanted to also talk about your unique way of doing this. We are talking about Kickstarter, and how what you did, your model that you did, which to me is brilliant. I don't know if any other independent comic creators are doing this well, and this maybe could be a lesson to other people that are watching if they're thinking about doing their own comic or their own character creation. You did something which I think is completely brilliant because it solves a lot of things that a trap that I think other independent creators are doing. They may have a successful campaign, they may launch an issue 1 of whatever comic that they're doing, but then since they don't have the, if they can't dedicate 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to make it their full-time job, it's going to be very hard to to get to issue 2. And even if they could get to issue 2, it may take months, if not a year, to do certain things. Now, what I thought was brilliant about what you're doing is that with seasons 1, you actually let it's available to look at for free. You can look at it, and I think when it got out there, it's like you were constantly pushing it out there, and that's the good thing about social media. It's like, hey, I'm staying relevant. I may not have my Kickstarter out yet, but I'm building up my audience. I don't have to tell the whole story, but I can keep on whetting the appetites of potential fans. I can keep on showing that I'm producing things. And that's what I thought was really cool, is because you get to, this is the model that I thought was so brilliant, and you're doing it here with season 2, is that you're slowly letting, it's a slow drip. It's that drip.
Yeah.
It's that, I think we also used it as think of the free pages that you get to see as an extended trailer to the finale, which has been produced, but it's not been released free. And that's where the Kickstarter comes in, is that you're doing this slow drip, this extended trailer, and then here, yes, you can get all that stuff for free, and yes, those pages are available in the volume that you're going to buy, that we want you to buy, but you don't get the final climax, you don't get the final chapter until you get Kickstarter. So I think that's brilliant, because you stay in the minds of your fans or potential readers. Even if people aren't aware of it, you can point them to it and say, hey, you know what, if you don't know if you want to invest in me, because that's the whole thing, it's a gamble, you don't know what I can do, check out my free pages, see, and if you like it, that's where you can help me. Help me get that last chapter out there. Go to the Kickstarter.
Right.
So tell me, is that something that did you see that? Was that something that you just came up with, or this whole model?
It's something that I came up with. I mean, I don't remember seeing anyone else do that, but I was trying to figure out what's the best way to incentivize, people to look at what I'm working on, and also for the fans that do like it, how they can help it, how they can help support it. And so when we were putting out,
right.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and just stay interested, because if they like the story, they know that new pages are. You said they come out every
Monday and Friday. Yeah.
So that keeps them. That's what I thought was brilliant, because you don't have to wait another year.
It keeps me on top of it too, and also I can keep sharing art, every week or so, and be like, here's a new page is up today, check it out. And then, when Friday runs around, here's a new page, check it out. And Summer has been out for a while. The first issue of Summer has been out on the website for a while. And it's something that we started putting out shortly after Volume 1 got funded and after it released. And so, when we went to conventions, I could tell people, hey, here's Volume 1. And also go to my website and you can start reading Volume 2 on there. And then you'll know when Volume 2 is about to come out, because I have blog posts on there as well. So it's like you want to stay relevant and you don't want people to forget about you. And because there's so much out there on the internet, and there's so many people making comics, and you're trying to, get that one person. You want to weave through all that noise that's out there, so people can say. And I thought that was just a really cool model, because you also talked about how not only you can go to you have a dedicated website where you have those those pages limited, but you also are experimenting by putting it on other platforms. Comicsology, you have it on Webtoons, which by far, when I look at Webtoons, and you told me you put it on Webtoons, I was like, this is not Webtoons. I mean, this is
if I, I mean, I guess you could break down these panels and put them into like,
that's
individual like
what we
long
did.
webtoon. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's what we did.
Yeah, and I want to get back to this art because even though we don't have Anthony here, we talked about the close relationship you have in terms of building a page.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about season 2, which is going into the summer, and you said, hey, I thought it was kind of funny that you mentioned it's like this is where we get to see Fletcher find his footing, and I was like looking at this and I go, wow, well, he didn't really find his footing, but this, I mean, he's falling and he didn't find his footing, but it's just funny that you mentioned it because I was looking at this, and this is what I want our readers to see, how phenomenal this art style is because it's just great sequential storytelling. You see the level of detail here, but there's things that are brought in here in terms of like, you get to see it like you're seeing it through the eyes of Fletcher. And, this is going in his mind, he's definitely going, seeing a lot of things happening, and you get to experience it. I mean, it has that, you feel like you're in his shoes, you're falling, you feel like you're falling literally. I mean, it's like the way that Anthony is able to capture this. And what was neat about it is that your role as a writer in this thing is that it's not like you actually kind of like a thumbnail. You kind of like give a little bit of a breakdown in terms of like how you want it to do. Now you let him take it from there, but you have a vision in your head, like you're like a director as well as a writer, saying, I want him to fall as we go through these sequences, but he's then to emphasize it, he's at the top and he's also at the bottom. He's really falling, through these these panels.
Yeah, like when you see that page there, literally at the top of the page. So that's page 1, and then that one's page 2. And so as he's falling, he's about to hit the ground, and then when you'd flip the page, you'd actually like feel that immersive idea of like him breaking through the top of the page. And
yes,
that was something that I wanted like so bad, because when I was writing the sequence, I was like, okay, like I like, okay, he's falling, he's crashing through a building, but it's like, how can we maximize this idea to the fullest extent and use comic books the best way? And I was like, there's so much cool things you can do with space and with where things are on the page. And so I sent Anthony the idea, and I sent him these thumbnails of like, okay, let's have him break through the top of the page, and then show all these other instances of him hitting debris, and have it feel really like a Vertigo idea of like him like it feels like you're he's twisting and turning, and it feels like chaotic and all of that. And
you totally did that. I mean, it's not on a level of 10, it's a level of like 15, on a scale of 10 in terms of how you did it. and I thought I was like joking with you yesterday as we looked through all these pledges that you can do. I thought this was kind of funny. Now I thought, Nandor, did you do this? Like I was looking at this little pledge here, and I go, is this an example of your thumbnail? And I was like, and he's like, no, this is, I gave an idea to him, and Anthony kind of fleshed it out, but this just shows you what a thumbnail looks like. But you can kind of like see, right here, where it says I'm you, it's like, you see these little panel breakdowns, and I think that's brilliant. I think that's part of the success of your storytelling, is because you're able to communicate that. And I joke with with other, when I the few commissions that I've ever done, or when I'm trying to help realize something for another writer, or just doing like some commission, it's like, can you do like a stick figure drawing, so I can kind of have an idea of what if you want me to draw something that gets me closer to what's in your mind, can you do that? And not often, it's a hard ask, but when you have a writer who has such a great compelling story, but you can do this and give panel breakdowns, I think that's a great asset. So I think that just shows,
sure. And I really have I really do have a visual mind, and I need to see it. It helps me to write, to put it down visually. And I actually, for the longest time, I wanted to be an artist growing up, but I would practice a lot, and I would work on stuff, and I actually drew. I'll have to send you some pages sometime. I drew an entire comic book. It was Avengers versus X-Men number 11.
Oh wow!
I like redrew all of that, and I spent like months on it, but I just wanted to like get to learn how to tell a story visually, because I knew it would help me as a writer at the same time, and I wanted to get better at art at the same time. And I thought, well, let me just draw an entire comic book, you know, and
that's great, because it's sort of like you are putting yourself in the shoes of an artist and knowing somebody else wrote this, and you're kind of interpreting it, reading it, and kind of like doing your own spin on it. And it may not be what Anthony did, or could do, but I think that's the thing, is that often the people that criticize things, unless they're like been steeped in the industry forever, and maybe they have like hours and they have credibility that could be measured a different way, you know, like not every critic for something is maybe good at it, you know, good at doing what they're criticizing. But I think what's cool about your approach is that you actually deconstructed it. You know, you took it from a standpoint of like, I'm going to take a Avengers versus X-Men comic that, you know, I kind of liked. I liked how it was told, but you know what? I'm going to try doing it, deconstruct it, write it. I guess you wrote it, you kind of like took it from your own spin on it and redid all the panels based, if you were trying to tell that story based on what you saw as a script, right? That's kind of like what you did.
Yeah. Like I wanted to, you know, understand, since I couldn't like read the script or learn how they made the comic. I wanted to understand the best way I felt like I could understand how to make a comic, and how to like understand how to lead the reader visually, you know, with the eye from you know, left to right to down and on. I was like, well, let me just do this and see if it helps, and see if I can kind of gain some insight. And I think I absorb a lot when I read and when I watch movies and listen to things. I just like it's just like I innately take it all in, and I want to like give it out again. You know, I want to like pay it forward, or so to speak.
It just improves your craft, because now it's like I used to joke around with when I became because I my day job is graphic design, and you know, we deal with typefaces and fonts and things like that. And I joked around with one of my other designer friends, like, I can never go to a movie now and watch the opening credits or the ending credits or the way the title sequence opens up and go, you know what, that was a poor choice of typeface. You know, it's like, I think that now, and now it's like, as you develop an appreciation for cinematography and, you know, directing, you know, camera angles, all of a sudden that becomes a part of you too. And I'm looking at Seasons here, and, you know, this is, I brought this panel up again. Everybody can go check out, you know, Seasons 2 on Kickstarter. And a lot of like other Kickstarters, when they talk about, you know, the comic itself, if they're pitching their artwork, they have like tiny little things, and you can't really see the visual impact. So excited here that I'm like pulling out my own earplug here, or earpod. But anyway, it's sort of like here. This is an example of that successful, you know, teamwork that Nandor and Anthony have. Is that, you know, we see the influences we talked about, the anime, manga, you know, the speed lines and things like that. But it's just you can see these could be like storyboards for a movie. I mean, it just communicates visually so well. And just things like you know, like you have this main panel here, and just having, you were talking about leading the viewer's eye, and just adding a diagonal here, and just showing the motion blurs. And I think that you can look at all of these pages that are here, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think, you know, there's no dialogue on any of these pages. And there's one here.
Up there.
But it just goes to show you do need it to get the full exposition, you know, get the full story. But the panels, they're brilliant. You know, they tell such a great story. You know, they already without the words. This one, we talked about this ad nauseum a little bit about this particular one, and why it's one of my favorite panels or favorite pages. And it talks about the you know, this is the introduction. This is one of the few pages, I think you said, that you're going to introduce color selectively throughout certain pages, all Spielberg Schindler's List style, you know, with just adding like little hints of like red or blue. In this case, it's the red orange warm palette. But I saw this page, we discussed it, and I was I don't know if it means that much to other people when they see this, but this as a composition just it just speaks to me. And I'll let you talk a little bit about it, and we'll just talk about about what this means exactly,
of course.
In terms of
Fletcher. And something I make sure that I do when I'm working on a page, if I'm doing a layout, or if when I'm writing that page, the visuals always come first. It's always about what is being shown, because comics are a visual medium, and that's the most important thing. And so when I'm writing a page, working on a sequence, you could say, I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to show it. And then what I'll do is I'll write, it's like I kind of do my own Marvel method just within myself, where it's like I do the visuals in my head and I put it down, and then I write on top of that to help mesh it and glue it together. And so with this page, this is something that was really just like I know I said yesterday, like finding lightning in a bottle, and like capturing it. And you can see there that the sun itself, with each sequential panel, you see the sun and you see how it's setting, and how the panels themselves are setting. And like you pointed out, it's like time is moving, and that's like a hand on a clock. And so by the time we get to the last panel, the sun is almost out of view, and you see that little horizon, and also the color is fading, and you see the black and white starting to
creep back in.
Flood back into the page. And also for people, when they read the page with the lettering and the narration that Fletcher's giving, it's a narrated page by him. He's talking about how this is kind of in the aftermath of the hurricane sequence, and a lot of people died through this hurricane and on the shore, and he was helping them, trying to get survivors to a hospital and trying to help them. And but there are some people who didn't make it, and so he's contemplating the idea of death, and that idea of like seeing someone die, and he's picking up the sand, and it's the idea of ashes to ashes and dust to dust, and how life is fleeting and fading, and how it can just fade before your eyes. And something you pointed out too that was really, really great was that idea of like it almost looks like a galaxy, the sand there, and how he's like this small person, where the earth is so small compared to the entire galaxy and our place in it. And it is him contemplating the person that he wants to be. And it's like
and he's so powerful too. It's like he has these powers, but yet he can feel like, and this is what I'm just eating all this up. It's like it's so, you can like the number of grains of sand on any beach doesn't equate to how big the galaxy the universe is, beyond our galaxy. And I think that this is so cosmic. I read it, I saw this page, and you see the look in his eyes, and he looks torn, and he just talked about how he's experienced death. He's seen people that have lost their lives, and and it's showcased in that whole the sun setting, and then of course the colors is fading away, and not only that, the grains of sand are flowing from his hand. And I just, like I said, I like this because I mentioned the Nolan movie. I guess that was the best way to compare, is because you're working in there's such a great connection in terms of how you and Anthony are working and able to put these visuals down. And I think that's what I think your readers I encourage all of the people go to Kickstarter and support this, because you'll get next level storytelling and next level. I mean, is storytelling as well as the visual artistry and like I said, I'm reading into it, and I don't know if that was their intention, but if it wasn't their intention, they're like the best happy accidents you could ever have.
There's a lot when we're working together, because when I send Anthony the script and he's working on making it. Oh, thanks. High concept.
Thanks, Roy. High concept. Yes.
Thanks, Roy. And it's like we. There's a lot going on in both of our heads, of course, creatively and visually. And I think a lot of that comes out subconsciously too when we're writing it. Like we don't, like sometimes when we'll see certain pages, and Anthony will point out certain things that I didn't catch, that he put in there. And it's really interesting because I'll look back on volume 1, or I'll look back at some earlier pages of volume 2, and it feels like I'm discovering something too, and it's really insane. And that's because we both are putting our all into it, our 110% of like creativity and the idea of trying to tell as much as you can, within a frame, a small frame or a big one. And it's just, with this page right here, like this was one that I sent to him, a layout that I did. And as Fletcher is falling, he's moving, but he's watching Heath save all these people that are falling. And at the same time, all of the narration, it connects to the facial expressions of those other characters. When it talks about happiness, it shows the kid.
Yes.
When it talks about love, it shows the girl. When it talks about there being a miracle, it's like Heath is like this angel, coming to save people from on high. And you see that light and dark, and him being in the center of the light there, while Fletcher is falling even more. And so and so he's watching this, and it's like he's grasping for light, for freedom and openness, and he's watching these other people get it, and he can't get it. And so he
kind of wants to be saved by Heath too. He wants, that's that and I guess I haven't read it, obviously this is season 2, but it's like is Heath gonna have like this messiah complex, type thing, I don't know, but it's just kind of neat.
Visually it's there, and and that was really important to me for the character. And what's also really cool, and I don't know if you noticed this too, but Heath always has this long jacket, and that was supposed to be the idea of like that's his cape, like
I always looked at it too. It's like it's obviously because his powers are the embodiment of wind, and you can only do the hair blowing so many different ways to otherwise he just looks like he's floating. And the way to do that without giving your protagonist a cape is to give him like a long flowing coat to make him to do that. And I also like you talked about him, sometimes it almost looks like they could be wings, type things, and you talk about him being an angel. He has this halo, this kind of like an aura or a halo that's around him. But I look at the brilliance of this too. It's like I can't stress this enough to our viewers here, if they want to support this Kickstarter campaign. The artistry and the storytelling of the sequential is just brilliant here. Because you see things where things will interact with the next panel over, but it's done not just as a gimmick; it's a storytelling device too. You see Fletcher here; he's falling, and you see him here at the bottom. It's a continuation of that whole sequence that I showed earlier. But you do see the range of the emotions of the people that are being rescued, and even though it's a composite shot, you can break it down into a panel. And I love how you have these two, panel 2 and 3, and then you also have an interaction between panel 1 and 4. Reaching out here. I don't know if that was something that you came up with and you told.
It was. I knew that's kind of breaking some rules there, but like I wanted to,
it's
like
rules, breaking rules in a good way, but you have to understand. I think what the rules are in order to break it. I think that's the same way with like anything, with graphic design. If there are rules that are kind of there, it's like Picasso. You have to do classical art before you could do the really abstract stuff. And I think when you can show this, it's successful, because you still read it left to right, but it's like one of those things where, it's still Western, you read all that, but it's nice when you can kind of see that interaction that breaks convention, but it makes sense. As a reader, you don't lose the reader. It accentuates the reading experience.
Like you mentioned, like David Mack will do that, where he'll have all of that on the page, but he's still guiding you, even though it looks like a collage piece.
Yeah, David Mack is. We talked about how David Mack is a mutual inspiration for both of us in terms of like, go check out Nandor stuff first, but check out David Mack as well. but we were also talking about we get, this was a bit unconventional, but even like the conventional stuff here, that we see here. It's typical, like, what I would think as linear reading for a Western comic, but look how powerful this is. I mean, I just like, I mean, aside from the big boom, of course, but the speed lines and the action, and you have, for Anthony saying he didn't really draw rain. I think this is one of those things as a writer, being able to work with your artist and help let him, you're evolving your characters, but it sounds like you're evolving Anthony too. You're pushing him to draw things he probably would never have drawn before. And I just look at this.
It's really cool because when we're working on storyboarding together, and I'm like, okay, like this is what the scene is gonna be like, and I'll send him my layouts and stuff, and he's like, well, this is new, like this is gonna be interesting to try to do, and I'm like, and I'm like, oh man, it's fun, but also I'm like, I don't mean to pressure you too much, but I love pushing him, as an artist too, and I love that he's able to do all of these things, and I know he's gonna give it his all, I'm just like, dude, I trust you, and it's gonna be great, and just take your time with it as much as you need, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll give you some pointers and whatnot.
Yeah, and like I said, that's the great relationship that I can see that between the two of you. It's all in the execution, the final product, pages, and you like I said, it's like for our readers here or viewers, is that you've got to get the book on Kickstarter to get the final chapters, but catch up, go read these the free pages, but got to get the participate in the Kickstarter so you can get the final story. And even if you read season 1, or if you have read season 1, you can always still get the hard copy of it as well, because Nandor, that's what we talked about too, is that sometimes digital is all well and good, but and it helps you connect, social media, the internet, and things like that, but nothing like having something that's literally, I mean, that's physically in your hand.
Tangible. I mean, to me, that's the beauty of reading a comic, is having it in your hands, and going to a comic book shop, your local comic book store, and seeing it on the shelf and picking it up and being like, whoa, and being really interested in finding a new story by a new creator. And there's all of that in play there. And you lose some of that when it's just online. And there's something about it being in print that makes it feel like it's complete and it's done and it's out there, and it feels even more, real. And I think in the truest sense of the word. And that was really important for Anthony and I to do. And something that, I want to let people know is this is how we know if we're going to keep making this, is through Kickstarter and through, wanting to get these physical books out there and go to conventions and put it in bookstores and get it out there. And, if we can't make these books, it really hurts our motivation to keep going, because this is what we want to do. This is the goal, is to, make the book and then move on to the next book. And so the series only continues, if we get the support and we were able to make these. And that's really important to us, because we want it to feel complete and then move on to volume 3 and 4. And so there's just so much weight behind the Kickstarter and what we want to do and how we want to present it to the world.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I want everybody that's watching this to know that you're not an unknown quantity, or you're not an unknown in the sense that season one, spring successfully funded. And it's like there is no X factor in this, because
right
you can go read those pages for season 1. You can read season 2 up to a certain point, so what there's not going to be any buyer's remorse unless you don't like this art and storytelling. If that's your case, then there's something wrong with you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just saying that if you get to what you see is what you get, and I think that's the beauty of the model that your business model in terms of having it out there, is to show. You're not hiding anything. You're revealing things to people, and if you're engaging them, and it is that whole trailer, seasonal trailer, the extended trailer before you got to get the book so you can get the final product. here, and we got testimonials here. We got we got people that
Yeah, I
think
had Brian Michael Bendis give it a plug, which is awesome, and Jason Brubaker and some of the reviews from Amazon.
I know that speaks for itself right there. I mean,
right.
I think that I encourage everybody to go check out this page, and as we wind this down, I also wanted to we're going to talk a little bit about these characters here at the bottom. Maybe you can give a little bit of insight. These are all season 2 characters. We talked about Fletcher, we talked about Heath, we talked about Judith, but we have Baker, Aiden, and Xander, and so maybe you can tell us a little bit, because I think we saw some pictures of Baker. I don't remember seeing anyone with Aiden. So maybe you can tell a little bit about these 2 characters before we start wrapping up the show. But tell us a little bit about these so people can know about how they relate to Fletcher, when you get season 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Baker, he even has some connection to Heath as well. So there's some personal connection there. And he's the personification of fire, Baker is, and they meet him, and one of the pages up there is where Heath first encounters Baker in the forest, and it's down actually,
it's here it is,
right there, that's the splash page. And something that was really that we've been doing is with every introduction of a new character, it's with the splash page. It's like we're gonna, like with Judith, it's like, here you go, it's big, framed and like cinematic. And then with Baker, this is the first time we see him, and it's just like,
it's like
here they are. We want you to feel like this is a big deal, and this is a new character and a new adversary, and someone they have to really take on. And so with each new character, that's the way we did it. And so with Baker, he's this embodiment of fire, and another natural disaster of this forest fire that he is in control of, and that he's really burning down this whole entire area for these people. And so Fletcher and Heath are trying to make him stop doing that and trying to like calm him down, but he's just like, he's livid. He's enraged, and there are his own personal reasons for that you find out as you read it. And so you have to read it, and with and it was really interesting with his character. We wanted to make sure that his design was really
different. He's not like
different.
He's not like the Human Torch, like how Marvel
does
that,
right.
or like Firestorm, or it's like I look at him and it's like you said he's charred. It's almost like when you see like artists draw like super muscle bound guys or whatever, they draw like the veins popping, but it's like these are like, it's almost looks like when you look at like lava rock that's cracked open when there's like and there's lava, molten rock underneath it. That's kind of like what I get from it, and it's so cool because this is black and white, but my mind is filling in all the colors for it, and I totally got his power set just by looking at these visuals. It kind of makes me kind of curious, maybe after you complete seasons, the complete thing, if you ever would have thought about, when I do on the 10-year anniversary, when I've done like 4 movies and I have a successful Netflix campaign, and I'm sitting in my mansion, sipping my whatever fine wine you want to choose. Are you gonna would you ever think about maybe doing like a colored version of season?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
That's something that Anthony and I have talked about, and something if there was demand for it, we'd love to supply it, and it'd be really cool to do like, seasons in color and really special.
I even like that story, seasons in color,
you
give autumn or fall would have like a totally different meaning, to it. And winter, I can see like, just really cool. So Aiden and Xander, you want to talk about? I noticed they're like 2 different characters. You obviously flipped this, and I know there's a deeper meaning behind this. So
So they're the personification, both of them. They're the personification of like earth, and the idea of life and death. Aiden being, life, and Xander being death, and you can see like A to Z. A is the beginning and Z is the end.
Look at that.
And
okay.
and the idea of like the reversal of life, is death, and so that's right.
Yeah.
And so, and he's a young boy and then a very, very old man. And they're both in this spot together where, and we haven't revealed them in the story yet, like online, like no one has seen them. There's been hints of them and they've been talked about in volume 2, but we haven't seen like Fletcher or Heath meet them. So we haven't met them as the reader.
So are they going to be like? Are you going to reveal them at the conclusion? Like you have to buy the book to understand.
Mm-hmm.
There's the hook.
Right,
there's the grab.
You won't know. Yeah, you won't know who they are and what their role is until you buy the book.
Oh my God, that's perfect. Because that's the way I want. This is the we were talking about the hook. That you want to get. And the brilliance of your how you've been marketing this. And I actually don't want you to go any further with it because I think that I know that you would love to. I mean, I would probably pick your brain because I'm all about spoilers. I want to learn it all, but I want people to know this. And just the fact that you were, I mean, that's just A to Z. The Xander thing about it. I just love that, and the fact that it's the final chapter of season 2. I want people to go get this book, go get season 1, go get season 2, find out who Aiden and Xander are, and it'll tie up all the loose ends. As I'm assuming that's going to be a clean, hopefully actually don't tell me, but it's like there has to be a little bit of a cliffhanger to go into the fall, into the autumn sequence after summer. But we talked about that. That's ending, why you want to get that. Without giving any spoilers, is there anything that you can kind of like talk about the future, like in terms of like what season 3 and season 4 is like? Again, don't I want to hear it, but in terms of like I want to hear all the spoilers, but just if there's something that you can kind of loosely just whet the appetites and hear it, so for those of us who are watching it here on Comics Cast, so they can know what to expect for season 3 and 4. What would you like to share?
It's really I'll have to talk a little vaguely, but I'll do my best to put out what I can. And
person X kills person Z, and that's all you need to know. Yeah,
right. And there's definitely things that are going to happen in fall and winter that are really crucial for Fletcher and his character development. And there are things that we're going to be doing things in the next 2 volumes that we haven't done at all with these first 2, and we're going to explore different means of like how to oppose Fletcher and his character, like you could say the enemy or the obstacle in Fletcher's way when it comes to fall is going to be something completely different than what he's fought in 1 and 2. And also with winter, I wanted to make sure that each season really had its own, like, I guess, flavor or style, where summer, so like spring, it kind of has that more supernatural horror, like thriller element to it. And then summer is more of the superhero, but also that like elemental feel, blockbuster feel. And then fall and winter are going to be, not that
somber, kind of like more somber or more. Well, I don't know if that's the correct word.
Yeah,
there's a different. It's going to be a different vibe. I'm going to use that word.
Yeah, different vibe. Same characters, same story, of course, but I want to always kind of keep the seasons distinct from each other. I don't want you to read spring and think, oh, he did, he's going to do this, in summer. I don't want you to read summer and be like, well, he already did this in spring. And then same with the other 2. I really want it to kind of shift a little bit, because as Fletcher grows, so will his struggling, and his battles that he has to face. And it's really gonna take on more, I think, some heavier themes with fall, and that idea of what does fall mean? It means death. It means change, And so with winter, it's stale, it's cold, you know, it's like, and it's the end of something, it's before the new beginning. And so kind of all of that, what the seasons are, all of that goes into play with how the narrative is told too.
And I think that's the thing, is that that was the best way to end it, because you can kind of like imply certain things, because it is fall and winter, without which would be logical in terms of like what you're doing with, you know, the seasonal theme, but without having to give away anything. So it's like, I think as readers, as they can kind of know that something is coming, you know, winter is coming. You know, it's like winter is coming.
Right.
And you know that there's going to be, you know, what all the connotations that come along with a season, you know, but that's kind of thing. It's like, it's so like, I like how you did it. It's vague enough, but it's enough to get you thinking, you know, like once you get invested in these characters,
I want
it's like
the reader to be invested. I want them to
care.
To see the character. Yeah, I want them to care, and I want them to care about where Fletcher is going and what he has to deal with, you know, on a human level, and also as a superhuman level. And you know, like, where is he going to end up? It's like, you know, I want people to ask me those questions, and I've gotten those questions. Like after spring was done, I had a lot of people that were like, so what's summer going to be about? Like, can you tell me, you know, like, can you give it out? And I was like, you'll see, like it'll be there. And
so I guess you kind of feel like George Lucas. Is like, maybe you have the stories in your head. It's like, no, I can't tell you. Now you're on the receiving end. It's like, I got the goods in my head. I just can't tell you. You know, just look forward to it. And that's what I want. Buy the book. And you know, here, let's just go through this really quickly. You know, we have a pledge for, you know, $20. I mean, these are all, I think, reasonable based on just what you had talked to me about, I mean, or what we'd shown. You know, very, very affordable. It talks, you can see the level of storytelling that's here. But yeah, perfectly doable, and being able to support it's an intriguing story from what, if you have been watching the show and you've been seeing what I've showed you, I mean, eat this up. It's such a brilliant story so far, and it's layered. It's not something that you, I think, can predict, you know, even though you know that there's what the connotations of a particular season, but you know, you need to like get the book, you know, and this is the thing too that I wanted to show people, is that this is nearly funded. Help us push them over to get completely there. They still got 13 days to go. I think you're healthy right now. I think, you know, you can it's definitely achievable. And this is what I really look at. I look at the number of backers. You know, we talked, I think I talked to you about this, and I talk of this when I talk to my other guests, is that, you know, unless Anthony has like 30 some family members and friends, and you have another 40, and they were all just, you know, family and friends that are just being sympathetic to your Kickstarter, and that you know, we're doing it. That would be one thing, but it's not. I mean, you got, even if you did, I'm just saying that there are so many people here that believe in it. I'd be interested to see how many of these are repeat buyers from who bought season 1, you know, or volume 1, which was spring season. But 77, you got 77 people, you know, backers that believe in you and have gotten you this far. So that speaks so well of you, and you know, the talent and the skill that goes, you know, behind this. So I can't say it enough. People, if you're watching this, go check it out. You know, and Nandor, it was a pleasure having you on my show. Nandor, I keep on screwing that up. But I think it's probably because I can't get your name straight, because I'm just really like enjoying seeing all this great artwork, and it's been a pleasure having both you and Anthony. You know, it's sad that we didn't get to have him the whole show.
Right.
I'm gonna hand the mic over to you so you can give your final thoughts in terms of, you know, just, you know, telling us about what you're planning to do, or what you know, what if you want to say thank yous. But before I do that, I have one more comment here I want to post real quickly here. We got from Roy here. I won't be surprised if Netflix picks this up. Yes, I believe it too. I want to see it. I mean, you know, if you're gonna show something to a studio, you know, this book it's like, hey, you know, you don't even have to have a storyboard artist. You just take my panel and just take it there. You know, Anthony and I will just, you know, Anthony and you will just sit there. We'll just be creative consultants to make sure that everything is there. And, you know, and of course, meet all your A-list artists, A-list actors and actresses that are going to want to vie for to be on your story. But yes, it was great having you on the show and drawing along with Anthony and learning more about, you know, seasons. So, you know, I'm going to hand the mic over to you. You can basically just tell us whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah. I'd encourage everyone, you know, that's been watching and everyone that, you know, checks this out to please go to the Kickstarter and back Seasons Volume 2 Summer. And if you haven't read Volume 1, that's okay, because we actually have Volume 1 and 2 on there at a discounted bundle. We're just $1,400 away from making it with 13 days left. So, and compared to my other first 2 Kickstarters, this has been the fastest growing one, and that's been really encouraging. And it's the dream to make comics full time, and this is the only way that we can keep making seasons, and the only way that I can keep writing and you know, supporting and producing all of these, you know, books. And I'm going to be I have 3 other comic projects that I'm working on right now, as well as seasons. So you'll be seeing a lot more work from me coming up, and I'm really excited to share that with everyone. But seasons is really the heart and soul of like why I make comics and why I'm doing this. And it's the only way that I feel motivated to keep doing it, because I really believe in the story, and I really believe that if you're having a really hard time in life right now, if you feel stuck, if you feel like you know, just are done with life, I think seasons would really move you and touch you and make you think about, you know, where you could actually put your foot forward, and where you could you know, keep moving and keep growing as a person. And that was really the main message I wanted to give people, and that's the message of the series, is that you don't have to stay where you are if you're not comfortable, if you're not happy, and you can actually find that and grasp for it. And Fletcher is the embodiment of all of that, and I wanted to give that to readers and give that to people. And with Summer, it's going to be even better than Volume 1. I have Volume 1 right here with me. I can show you.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, it's going to be a hardcover. Volume 1 was a hardcover. It's only $20. And what we want to do is hit that 6,500 stretch goal to where we can actually emboss the cover, and we can add some gloss to it too. And so no matter what, it's going to be a hardcover. It's going to be, you know, super sturdy and really just like a fine book. And, you know, we want to put these next to each other. We want, you know, summer, fall, and winter all together. And you know, it'd be awesome to have a slipcase later on too, where we could like collect them all. But this is really, you know, why I make comics. And if you love superhero stories, if you love stories that really move you and make you think, then you'll love Seasons.
Well said. Well said. And like I mentioned before, you can do a search, of course, for on Kickstarter for Seasons Volume 2 Summer, or you can look at the link here at the bottom. We have scrolling, and just go to this link right here and check it out. Support them. I can't speak any higher than that. I don't know what other way I could say that this is just a phenomenal book. But yeah, go check it out. Help them get to winter. Help them get those numbers.
Yeah, that's right.
So we want to get to the finals.
Yeah, you know, it's like after this, we're gonna be halfway there. You know.
Yeah,
like,
right.
We have 2 books left. It's like I see, you know, doing the first one, I was like, man, this is really big to take on. You know, because I saw where I wanted to go with it, and I knew that was gonna be like 400 to 500 pages later, and it's like we're halfway there now, and you know, it's only up from here, you know, and it's like we're getting closer and closer, and I can't wait to, you know, continue this with everyone.
Yeah, I can't wait either. And it's like you said, I mean, when you're talking about it's getting that first step out, and that was spring. And you know, you got the blossom, and now you're in that fun summer thing, and that's what you want people to see, is that see the summer volume, and then help them to get to those final 2 seasons. So thank you so much. I had such a great time learning about you, learning about Anthony, learning about the art and the methodology behind, you know, behind the storytelling, the connection between you and Anthony in terms of being able to get those visuals, those stunning visuals on page. on the pages, and your whole brilliant, I think, marketing angle in terms of feeding people free pages, but just so you stay relevant and in people's in the forefront of making sure that they know who you are throughout that period before the Kickstarter is keeping that extended trailer going on until the Kickstarter is coming up. So very good. I'm so pleased to have you, and I only wish you the greatest success, and keep me up to date. Let me know what's going on. Okay.
All right. So, I will, man. Yeah.
The door is open, and you're welcome to come back here for season 3 and volume 3 and volume 4 when they're ready to go.
Oh man, I can't wait to do that. That'll be great to see where we are by then.
And just remember, when you do get signed by Netflix, you can like make sure that they saw it first on Netflix. Okay. All right. So that being said, I'm going to, what we usually do ending the show is we kind of like or we show our charity partner, and I just wanted to do that real quick. Awesome. So last chance here. I want everybody to look at this Kickstarter link. Go check that out. Go support seasons or the summer season volume 2. So you will not be disappointed. So let me stop sharing screen here. And this is our charity partner. And it's been a little bit of a tradition. We always end our show bringing some recognition to our charity partner Golden Fight. Oh, that's great. And they are a phenomenal organization. And I like to call them a big enough but small enough organization at the same time. They are an organization that helps families who have children that are dealing with difficult diseases, and like in this case, like cancer. And so what Golden Fight does is when families are dealing with this, is they want to focus on the healing of their child, the treatment of their child, and often when that happens, financial difficulties will occur, and that's where Golden Fight comes in. Golden Fight raises money through charities and through their own, the kindness of their heart to help get funding to help pay for just the day-to-day expenses that families that are dealing with these illnesses have to deal with. And what I say, but they're small enough. They're small enough in the sense that they have a very focused area. They are in my neck of the woods, the Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, DC area. They're not nationwide, which allows them to really focus on the needs of families just in this area. But they are big enough in the sense that they have big hearts. They basically can say that 97, I think it was either 97 or 98% of whatever money that they raise goes to those families. There's a very nominal 2 or 3% that they keep for just administrative things, or just, I think their leadership is pretty much all volunteer. So they're just big hearts, and you can't pick a better organization that really is like, when you donate, it's going directly to those who are affected by it. So go support Nandor and his Kickstarter. But if you have the means and you want to check out Golden Fight, they are definitely a worthy organization that could use some help, and you would be doing well, in terms of like being able to know that in your heart you've helped somebody who's definitely worthy of needing that assistance. So let me close this, and that's going to be a show wrap. I'm going to say thank you yet again. The door is open. You're welcome to come back here anytime. And I'm looking forward to, in 13 days, it'll probably be before 13 days. I'll be checking out your campaign every day to see a new backer, and I will be sending you an email or a chat message the day that I find out it was successfully funded. I'm gonna predict the future. It's going to happen. So thank you so much, my everybody from Comics Cast. Thanks everybody that's been watching us throughout this year. Thanks again, Nandor and Anthony, and we will see you next weekend. Stay tuned for another episode of Let It Out. Keep on drawing. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.